I never believed that some secrets were meant to remain buried, until the night I discovered Hawthorne Manor. About 2 years ago, in the secluded town of Arcadia, nestled between misty, towering mountains, an eerie legend resurfaced. Hawthorne Manor, an ancient mansion forgotten for over 20 years, once symbolized opulence and prestige. Built in the late 19th century by a distinguished family, its grandeur faded into despair after a string of unexplained tragedies, leaving behind only decay and sorrow. I've always been drawn to places with a mysterious past, so one rainy evening after work, I decided to embark on an exploration. With nothing more than a small backpack, a few essential tools, and an old flashlight, I set off alone into the dense forest that cradled the manor. The path into the woods was no longer the familiar cobblestone road. It had been swallowed by nature. Weeds and wild grass replaced broken stones, creating an untamed, almost otherworldly atmosphere. Each step on the damp earth heightened both my excitement and a creeping sense of dread. After roughly 10 minutes of navigating the fading light of the forest, I saw it, Hawthorne Manor. It stood before me like a relic from another time. Wooden walls rotted by time, shattered roof tiles, and windows that stared blankly like empty eyes. I paused beside a cracked side window, where the weak glow of sunset mingled with the encroaching darkness within. The sight was both melancholic and ominous. Crouching down, I listened for any sound of life inside, but silence greeted me. With trembling hands, I carefully pushed open the front door that had been left ajar. As I stepped inside, the chilling air of a bygone era enveloped me. Darkened walls, peeling wallpaper, and the musty odor of decay sent shivers down my spine. The ground floor was a chaotic relic of the past. A tattered sofa shrouded in dust, dilapidated wooden tables, and scattered, broken photo frames. The faded portraits of the Hawthorne family, once beaming with life, now looked ghostly and lost, like souls trapped in time. Driven by a mixture of terror and curiosity, I ascended the creaking wooden staircase to the second floor, rumored to be the epicenter of the manor's strange happenings. In a narrow hallway, I discovered 2 rooms, one slightly open, bathed in a sliver of dim twilight, the other shut tight, guarding its secrets. I entered the open room, scanning every corner with my flashlight. The emptiness was overwhelming, filled with an intangible weight of forgotten memories. Then, unexpectedly, I heard a faint noise, a soft thud resembling distant footsteps or a dropped object from the floor below. My heart raced as the legendary ghost stories of Arcadia surged in my mind. Without a moment's hesitation, I retraced my steps to the ground floor to leave. But when I reached the front door, I discovered something that froze me in place. The door had closed on its own. I hadn't touched it. It had sealed itself as if held by unseen hands. Panic surged through me. I rushed toward the side window, grabbed its cold, splintered frame, and leaped down into the forest. Every second felt like an eternity, with the sensation of unseen eyes burning into my back from the mansion. As I sprinted through the eerie silence of the woods, my frantic footsteps and labored breathing were the only sounds breaking the night. Then, in the distance, the piercing red and blue flashes of police lights emerged. 2 patrol cars, their sirens wailing, charged toward Hawthorne Manor. For a brief moment, relief washed over me. I thought help had arrived, but a nagging thought remained. Were the police here to investigate, or to conceal something no one dared mention? I watched them from behind the cover of ancient trees, and then I knew I would never set foot in that cursed place again. Even now, as I recount that fateful night, the image of Hawthorne Manor haunts me, A house filled with unsolved mysteries, whispers of a tragic past, and fears that defy explanation. In the weeks that followed, I sought answers from locals and old folklore, but no official records ever confirmed the true horror within. One truth, however, remains undeniable. Something dark lurks within Hawthorne Manor, a secret so sinister it's best left undisturbed. And every time I close my eyes, I feel as though a fragment of that haunted past follows me. A constant reminder that some mysteries are far too dangerous to unravel. So, if you ever come across an abandoned mansion with a dark history, remember, curiosity might lead you to uncover hidden truths, but could also awaken something that should remain forever asleep. Have you ever thought that a night of adventure with friends could turn into a nightmare? One stupid decision, one wrong move, could be the last chance you have to turn back? The story I'm about to tell you is true. It started as a harmless joke, but ended with the feeling of death touching me. This happened back in 2016 when I was living with my two best friends. Let's call them Jason and Andrew. We were all seniors in college, sharing a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. Between classes, work, and the usual stress of student life, we had one weird hobby in common: exploring abandoned places. That Friday night, we all happened to have a day off. Andrew had heard from a friend about an old steel factory at the edge of the city, completely abandoned, untouched for years. It sounded crazy, dangerous even, but also sounded like the perfect way to kill a boring Friday night. After dinner, we piled into Jason's car and drove out of the city. The lights and buildings faded away behind us, replaced by empty fields and dark, quiet roads. Using Google Maps, we found the factory and parked at an old, deserted gas station nearby. Then we walked down a long, empty street toward the place. The moment I saw the factory, I felt uneasy. It was massive, far bigger and darker than I'd imagined. The walls were covered in graffiti, barbed wire coiled around the fence, and there were gaps in the wire where someone had clearly cut through. The air felt heavy, too quiet. We slipped through the fence and walked up the worn path toward the front entrance. The metal door was wide open, rusted and heavy. Inside, it was pitch black. The sound of the wind howled through broken pipes and empty beams. The air smelled damp and rotten. When we shined our flashlights around the first room, all we saw were giant, rusted machines, dead, towering beasts from another time. Narrow walkways twisted between the old equipment. We split up, casually exploring. At some point, I wandered toward the back of the room and spotted a dark hallway tucked behind the machinery. Just before I stepped in, I glanced back and saw someone peeking at me from behind one of the machines. I figured it was Andrew or Jason, so I walked into the hallway without thinking. That decision nearly got me killed. The hallway led to another door. As soon as I stepped inside, I heard the door creak shut behind me. Footsteps echoed faintly in the corridor. I assumed it was one of my friends following me. I called their names. No answer. The room I'd entered was larger than I expected. In the middle was an old conveyor belt. Above, a rusted catwalk stretched across the ceiling. As I swept my flashlight around the space, I heard the door behind me swing open and slam shut. I spun around. No one was there. That's when I froze. From the far corner of the room, I heard footsteps. Slow, heavy. I pointed my flashlight toward the sound and saw him. A man, tall, filthy, with long, matted hair and a patchy beard. His clothes were torn. His eyes, wide, blank, and empty, locked onto me. He didn't blink. And then, without warning, he charged. I screamed, spun around, shoved the door open, and bolted down the hallway. His footsteps thundered behind me. I shouted for Jason and Andrew as I ran, panic clawing at my throat. I burst back into the main room just as they were frantically looking for me. I yelled, "Run! There's someone in here!" We didn't stop to question. We sprinted for the fence, climbed over, and didn't look back. We didn't stop until we were back in the car, speeding away. On the drive home, I told them everything. That man wasn't just a squatter. He had been waiting, watching, for one of us to split off from the group. I don't know how long he had been living in that factory, or what he would have done if I hadn't gotten away, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be here telling this story if I hadn't. After that night, none of us ever stepped foot in another abandoned building again. It was supposed to be just another stupid adventure. Just me and my best friend sneaking into an old, abandoned church everyone in town said was haunted. We thought it was just stories, until we heard the footsteps, until we realized we weren't alone. This is the night I'll never forget. This happened almost 5 years ago, back when I was still in high school. My best friend at the time was Colton, the kind of friend who would always be down for something stupid and reckless. We'd hang out after school, wandering around town just to kill time. It was the start of winter break. We had nothing to do. After an entire day of playing video games at Colton's house, boredom hit us hard. So, that night, when we ran out of things to do, we decided to go for a walk, maybe find something interesting. We ended up on the edge of town, walking aimlessly, when we stumbled upon a narrow alley that nobody really used anymore. That alley led to a place everyone in our town knew about, the old, abandoned church. Growing up, we'd heard every rumor imaginable about it. People whispered that someone had died inside, that anyone who went there at night would see something that didn't belong to this world. I never planned to go anywhere near it, until that night. For some reason, when we stood at the entrance of that dark, overgrown alley, both Colton and I shared the same thought. Let's just check it out. The path was narrow, cracked, overrun with weeds and vines. After a few minutes, when I glanced back, the glow of the streetlights had completely disappeared, swallowed by darkness and trees. And then we saw it. The church stood like a black scar in the middle of the forest. The brick walls were covered in moss. The roof caved in, and the iron fence was nearly consumed by weeds. No lights, no sound, nothing but the wind rattling through brittle branches. We slipped through a broken section of the fence and stepped onto the church grounds. My heart pounded as I pushed open the heavy front door. It groaned, long and loud, like the wood itself was crying out after years of silence. Inside, the air was freezing and still. Rows of pews stretched before us, covered in thick dust. Strangely enough, there were no signs of vandalism. No graffiti, no broken furniture. It felt like time had simply abandoned this place. We walked quietly down the main aisle. Our footsteps echoed beneath the high, arched ceiling. When we reached the pulpit, we heard it, a loud crash behind us, like something heavy had fallen. We froze, hearts pounding. We swung our phone flashlights around, but saw nothing. Colton whispered that maybe something in the storage room had tipped over. He suggested we check it out. Reluctantly, we walked along the narrow hallway to the side of the church, toward a half-open door. I pushed it open. Inside, the storage room was a mess. Folded chairs, dusty boxes, old hymn books stacked carelessly. And then, we heard footsteps. Soft, steady. Someone was walking down the main aisle, the very path we had just walked moments ago. We held our breath, ears straining. In the dim light outside the storage room, I caught a glimpse of something. A figure, tall, thin, walking slowly, almost gliding. They passed by, slipping through the shadows toward the front door. The footsteps stopped. The front door creaked shut, slow and deliberate. We didn't move. We didn't breathe. We waited there, frozen for what felt like forever. When we were sure the church was empty again, we bolted, sprinting through the alley, back toward the streetlights, back toward life. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about that figure. Where had they been when I was standing at the pulpit? Were they already in the darkness, watching us? Or worse, were they ever really human? Some places are better left untouched. If you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button and join us every week for more real, terrifying tales. And remember, next time you hear footsteps in the dark, don't assume you're alone.